I stand here to express my gratitude and the gratitude of the entire legal fraternity to Justice Nazir for his remarkable career as a lawyer and as a judge. In more than one way, this is a ceremony to commemorate more than just 4 decades of Justice Nazir's career of public service. It wouldn't be an exaggeration for me to say that Justice Nazir is not only dedicated to the law, but he is dedicated to all those who are affected by the law. It was a very long journey and not an easy step for him, born in Beluvai in Mudbidri Taluka in Karnataka, when Justice Nazir had to study law in the SDM Law College in Mangalore and later to be enrolled as an advocate in 1983. He is a farmer at heart. It was a difficult life for Brother Nazir growing up on his uncle's farms. And you'd be all very touched to know that at the Panambur beach in his early years, Justice Nazir even scavenged for fish which washed up on the shore and picked up that odd second or third fish. So it's been a long journey for Justice Nazir. After enrolling, he practiced for 20 years in the Karnataka High Court before he was appointed as an additional judge in May 2003 and served for 14 very illustrious years as a judge of the Karnataka High Court before he came to the Supreme Court in 2017. Justice Nazir once told me that he was worried about his future prospects after his graduation from Law College in the 1980s. Growing up in very humble circumstances, Justice Nazir had to overcome many social and economic obstacles to make a mark for himself in the legal circles in Karnataka. He often attributes his success to the sacrifices which were made by his mother. Justice Nazir, it is a testament to your grit, determination and courage that today you are taking leave as a judge of the highest court of the land. To rephrase a popular adage, Justice Nazir has been here and he has done everything that a judge of the Supreme Court aspires to achieve. When he was elevated to the Supreme Court, Justice Nazir brought with him the valuable experience of judicial craftsmanship that he had gained while serving as a judge of the Karnataka High Court. His wisdom and experience are manifested through the equanimity with which he conducted his court, patiently interacted with counsel, fairly considered the merits of each argument, and courteously worked with his colleagues on the bench to find a just resolution to the disputes before him. In the Karnataka High Court, he was known as a judge who has specialized in the Code of Civil Procedure. He wrote many a judgment on cross-examination without really having cross-examined a witness in his early years at the bar. During his tenure, Justice Nazir has been a part of many landmark cases of the Supreme Court. He was part of the 9-judge bench in Puttaswamy versus Union of India, which unanimously held that the right to privacy is a fundamental right. He was a part of numerous constitution benches in important matters, including the 5-judge bench pertaining to the Ayodhya title dispute and the constitutionality of the triple talaq. Recently, he also presided over the constitution benches dealing with the important issues of the validity of demonetization and the right to free speech of ministers, MPs and MLAs. Justice Nazir has also contributed immensely to the jurisprudence in various other fields of law such as administrative law, insurance, family law, land law, environmental law and motor accident claims. His tenure as a judge of the Supreme Court shows that he was a leader, not only in his knowledge of the law, but also as a colleague who offered support and encouragement to others. Justice Nazir has always put the people at the center of his judicial philosophy. For example, I'll just give you 2 examples. In Vinayak House Building Cooperative versus the State of Karnataka in 2019, Justice Nazir in an erudite judgment, observed that well-planned cities are a necessity for the health and well-being of the community. Similarly, in the case of Hospitality Association of Mudumalai, in 2020, Justice Nazir presciently observed the need to protect wildlife corridors as a way to ensure the survival of wildlife and the mitigation of the human-animal conflict. These two decisions are but an example of what a judge should always do. That is, to not only interpret a legal provision and lay down a rule, but to do substantive justice. For as Aristotle said, the challenge is to do the right thing, to the right person, to the right extent, at the right time, with the right motive, and in the right way. I believe that throughout his career, Justice Nazir deftly overcame this challenge. Now I'll give you a few secrets about Justice Nazir. They have not been reported, but I can only assure you that they are not unreportable. In his college days, Justice Nazir was very fond of the theatre. So he would compose the plays, write his dialogues, the songs, render the composition itself. And interestingly, he was the female lead singer himself in his own play. Even when he became a judge, he would join with his colleagues in an act of co-curricular singing. And he has been well known both in the bar and the bench for his Tulu songs. In one notable scene from a play which has been written and composed and directed by him, the very famous scene called the matchbox scene, which is that the villain in the play, a strip of the matchbox is stuck on the bald pate of the villain. And then Justice Nazir comes and lights a matchstick on his bald pate. Such was his creativity. Justice Nazir has learned Sanskrit, which shows his diversity and inclusion and openness of mind. He is simple to the core. Until recently, his only two identity cards were his driving license and the judge's ID. He acquired a passport for the first time in 2019, and in a recent visit over a cup of tea to my chamber, he told me that he was happy that he was able to obtain the first stamp of having traveled abroad by having traveled to Moscow a few weeks ago. It is known to some of us who are close to Justice Nazir that he writes a lot. He maintains a judge's diary in which, on the first few pages, he has inspiring quotes. So wherever he reads something interesting, he will write it down in the first few pages of his judge's diary. And he's a subscriber of the WhatsApp University. But he's truly simple to the core. It was only recently that Justice Nazir learned from his grandchild that magnets can also be toys. In so many which ways, he is simplicity personified. His father-in-law discovered him way back in 1983, after he joined the bar and he actually came to Bangalore to be enrolled. He came to the High Court not knowing anyone at all. And he met somebody who was on a motorcycle with a beard and thought that he should go to that person and ask him for being recommended as a member of the Bar Council. So he turned to him and said, Khuda Hafiz. That person signed his enrollment form. Later, his brother funded his trip to Bangalore, his court, his enrollment fees. What is most interesting about all this is something which I hope Mrs. Samira Nazir will forgive me for sharing, which was the Swayamvar which led to the beautiful union of such a gracious judge and his gracious spouse. Having got to know his father-in-law had picked out Justice Nazir as a prospective son-in-law. Justice Nazir was traveling by bus somewhere, and his father-in-law was very keen that they must grab Justice Nazir at the right point of time. So when he returned by the bus, his father-in-law set a few of his very reliable people, including juniors, to catch hold of Justice Nazir and make him ready for the Swayamvar. So all in all, the smile which you see in the court reveals a multifaceted personality. It reveals a personality which has been very serious about the law, but much beyond as well. Fond of literature, fond of music. I think he, in that sense, represents a very complete human being. So today we are bidding farewell to a devoted son, a collegial colleague, a gentle employer, a fierce advocate, and a people's judge. Personally, I am bidding farewell to a dear friend. When he sat with me in the court today, it was a great honor. But at the same time, I had a feeling of sadness as every minute went by, because I knew that out of the 2.5 hours that we had together today on the bench, every minute was 1 minute less from the time that we had together this morning. Farewells and goodbyes are a part of our lives, but this farewell does not eviscerate the greater memories that all of us have shared with Justice Nazir in the complex of the Supreme Court and beyond. Justice Nazir, on behalf of the legal fraternity, I would like to thank you once again for your contributions to the Indian legal profession. I hope you will still remain attached to the legal profession and continue to enrich it in varied capacities. I would also like to thank and congratulate your gracious spouse, Samira ji, all the family members, including your son and Irfana, friends, staff, as well as the law clerks of Justice Nazir. Thank you very much.